we have each other, and there's no metric that I can even express in words. And there's all these aspects that are not considered when we talk about these things happening in the technological world. So I wish there was like some kind of if AI could do one thing for humanity, I wish AI could like be a mass balancer somehow. Hi, I'm Portrait XO. I'm a transdisciplinary artist. I come from music as my first and foremost medium, and I integrate a lot of visuals and technologies such as AI in my research as an independent creator, as well as perform. And last night I just finished performing with Dan Gorelick, who joins me on stage with cello. And I have been here at CTM and Transmediale to hold workshops on data sonification. I was part of the Wilding AI Lab, where we got to show a group of 12 participants how to use a new Max for Live device that integrates large language models, creating sonic agents, by Maurice and Beth Coleman, who came together to spearhead this great project. So the cost of connection stems from my ongoing research in what it means to be human in a data-driven society. I've been very much concerned about the impact of what is happening in the world with the acceleration of AI and the impact on not just myself as a creator and a human, but on the environment and society in general. It started off with trying to unpack a bit more after seeing these very identical graphs in data between the acceleration of AI and the acceleration of global temperature anomalies. And so I wanted to understand this kind of data a bit more. And so that led me to the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. They have this insane mission that they're trying to achieve by 2030, which is not that long from now. And so that's kind of what this body of work, how it went from that first initial thread pooling of understanding two kinds of data sets that then led to just sonifying a ton of different kinds of data that I was trying to understand. Because they're so large and they're so overwhelming, it's really challenging. And so that's also what kind of led to a lot of heavy data activism. And that's the core of the project, really, is to just highlight where we are. And as a musician, when I perform and I create my works, they do come from a very personal space. This is my first time that I've created a body of work in sound that has this core activism in it. And so it's a starting point, it's a dialogue that I hope that more people can unpack with me. So it's also an invitation for the public to practice an ongoing critique and ongoing public discourse about all of this. Yeah, so I guess as a musician, when I'm making sounds in general, I'm always curious about new tools. I love creating new textures or finding tools that help me make sound in interesting ways. And so a dear friend of mine, Noah Pred, who runs Manifest Audio, came out with this amazing set of Max for Live devices, which allows musicians to basically take any data and then use these devices to sonify them, either as MIDI notes or modulations. And so that was a lot of fun to play with, just on a pure sound design journey. But I'm also very intentional about the meaning behind my work. And because I've been so concerned about the acceleration of AI and the ethics around it as well, and how a lot of things are not being very well considered, and things are not done in a fair way, and it's happening at such an insane speed. I guess for me as a performer, I always need to have a sense of improvisation in my performances, and so I love integrating natural sounds like my voice and different instrumentations. And so having someone like Dan on cello was a great contribution, because I find it really strange and peculiar that we're in a place where, as humans, I think we are being challenged to prove our humanness all over again. In one way, there's so many inspiring, incredible ways that we can use this technology. On the other hand, the way that's being done is not always fair and sustainable. And so this tension is something that naturally became part of my performance. The music is pretty chaotic and intense, and sound is where I go when I'm trying to either feel a certain cathartic release of, all of these intense emotions I'm feeling. There's a lot in the show that I still have not the clearest way to explain. It's a pretty chaotic experimental performance, but that is my little moment of capturing the last couple years to bring it to stage. There's things that, as we're being challenged to prove, I don't think this desire to connect with other humans is ever going to go away, and that's without technology. My hope is that when I bring my performances on stage, even though I am using all of this technology that is very in a critical time, that people can take something away from it and share these complex emotions with me. Perhaps they can seek some kind of cathartic release as I have. The collaboration for this project, on the technological side, Neutone, who runs this great AI plugin company, it doesn't take away the integrity of the role of artist, and so it's been really wonderful to just witness that they have gone above and beyond to cultivate in such a way where artists get to decide, how they want to have their own custom AI model created, and they talk you through every point of the journey. They're very transparent, and so it's very much about community building around all of what's happening in AI and music, and they're open source about the first code that they created. So they're very transparent about when they're using open source code, and also how they then build upon open source code to make it their special, unique way that they're building these interesting architectures. And so I've been using Neutone to both write and produce as well as perform on stage. So people would have heard some wild sound design using my voice, as well as the cellist when Dan performed. People would have heard a little bit of some AI violins responding to his playing that I was controlling on stage. So the first time I did a workshop here in collaboration with CTM was another workshop on my workflows, and it was a bit more broad. It wasn't just AI focused, but I showed people how to use tools for doing audio visuals, because when I perform, I'm controlling the music as well as the visuals on stage. So that was a lot of fun. It was also intense. My workshops do tend to be a bit intense because it's very dense amount of information, and we talk about the philosophy behind approaches and methods and workflows, and a lot of different multimodal ways of working. And so what's exciting about this year is there was a big focus on real-time AI and what that means, and we get to question and critique it, and what ways does it make sense to use AI in these ways. It's been an interesting journey to shift from last year to this year. And it's always interesting with CTM because there's such a diverse group of people that tend to come to these workshops. It's not just musicians. So sometimes there's photographers, visual artists, AI researchers, creative coders. People are just interested in learning. And I think more and more artists are becoming multidisciplinary and integrating a lot of different practices. So it's really nice CTM is so special in that way. On a cultural level, it really encapsulates the heart of Berlin. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges on being an artist these days. I don't want to just focus on AI, but it really is changing everything. It's disrupting everything from education to industry to mental health and social well-being as well. that's something I really, really deeply feel at the moment. There's all this data that's being shared, these stats and figures that show AI for optimization. But AI cannot optimize everything. Technology can't optimize human creativity, not in the way that it's being presented. And there's tons and tons of new AI products and services that are being created. Not much integration of people who are being impacted by these technologies to be part of the businesses and part of these modes of working. And so that's where there's unethical challenges that we're faced with as creatives. And so we have to push back, but that journey of pushing back is also challenging because things are moving at such an accelerated rate. And so I also feel very challenged of how to even plan, from now to next year, I think it's going to be so different just because of the speed of things moving. I just really hope that the other bigger players in the field of AI, like Geoffrey Hinton, who left Google and became a philosopher now, I hope voices like that and Mo Gauda, who are advising and also alerting higher people in power of the dangers also of certain aspects, that there's enough humans that care enough about the humanity of how we do things and also the environmental impact, because I do think that if we make ethical choices that are based on sustainability, it's not just about optimization, then naturally we are going to make a better impact on the environment. They go hand in hand. And I think that's where arts and humanities play such a big, important role, because artists help explain these things and show examples of these things. And so when we talk about labor and going back to the cost of connection, AI might get faster at creating images and visuals and all of that, but there aren't very clear specs or stats on what the human journey actually is like. It doesn't take into consideration the amount of hours of labor crafting a skill, going through countless amounts of failure and rejections, and what that journey looks like that has so many intricate challenges to become a sustainable creative, sustainable artist. And now that AI is impacting every single field, I just hope that all the people who are concerned about the way things are moving, that they come together and build collaborations on a private level. So I'm hoping everyone who's impacted by it, and also the people who are responsible, because I think that there needs to be corporate responsibility, social responsibility, that this care happens and they can figure out ways to sustain themselves together. There has to be collaboration now more than ever, and it has to happen through community. And we have each other, and there's no metric that I can even express in words what is the cost of connection between myself and another human that I care deeply about. I don't have numbers for that. I don't have a timeline for that. I don't have scales for that. But I do know that impacts my social well-being.